Is property investing worth the risk? Guys, Dan Trevidi here, hope you're all well. So I am bringing you another property investing basics, but this one isn't just specific to property investors. This is all about, is investing worth the risk? And this is going to be light-hearted, but we are going to touch on some of the key things that most people right at the start of any investment journey and any new business venture will be asking themselves, is it worth the risk? And as ever, before we get started, I just need you all to do me a huge favor, which is to smash the like button and don't forget to hit subscribe. Now, this is actually a subject that I have never done a video about or even mentioned in any of my previous videos. And the reason for it is because I haven't thought about this for some time. And over the last week, I've been thinking about my previous Norfolk property networking events, which I started in 2015, and there was around 5 or 6 a year, up and through to the start of the pandemic last year. And I was thinking about some of the questions that I'd been asked to try and bring some of that information through my videos. And this is where I had the realization that a lot of people who are either brand new to property, brand new to investing, or brand new to starting something on their own, like a business, questions that they ask are all pretty much the same. What happens if, and is it worth the risk? Now, obviously, I'm going to give you quite a biased opinion because I think property is well worth the risk. In fact, I think it's more of a risk if you never buy a property. Before I get into property and how it helped me and how I took a risk which changed my life completely, let's try and take a step back and try and understand what are the perceptions in terms of risk versus the reality. Now, if you're watching this video, it is because you've got some sort of fire in your belly, or you are already on your investing journey or the start of your entrepreneurial idea. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. There will be a little voice inside your head trying to convince you whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're thinking of doing, it isn't worth the risk. You're better off in your comfort zone. Now, this goes right back to the stems of the memory within our DNA and in our brain. If you read Dr. Steve Peters' book, The Chimp Paradox, it will give you a lot of insight as to why your brain functions like this. But I'm not going to get into that on this video. You can see and hear that from the expert by just Googling or watching his YouTube videos. What I want to do is try and put it across in a very simple context. Now, you've probably got all of your end goals in sight, or if not all of them, definitely some. Things like earning more money per month, or creating more wealth, or being able to afford your dream home, being able to afford the flash sports car, being able to help your mum and dad with their rent or pay their mortgage off, being able to spend more time at home with your family and your wife. Whatever it is, that goal is there because it's not happening right now. And you can kind of convince yourself of all the good that's happening now. And that's good because there is probably a lot of good happening. But don't try and use it as an excuse as to why you're never going to take the step in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And I can't get into the detail on helping you all individually try and reach those goals. But what I can do is give you the broad first couple of steps, which if you take, will help you achieve them. Now, it is like anything. Taking the first step is the hardest, but convincing yourself not to take it is the easiest thing to do. Now, if you have nothing to lose, you have no wife, no kids, no responsibilities, no dependents, and you could literally jump on a plane and travel the world tomorrow and not have a care in the world, then that is probably the easiest point to start with. But the reality is, 9 times out of 10, people watching this video, you are not going to be in that position. You're going to have either a job or some sort of responsibilities like a mortgage or children, or you're going to be in some sort of debt which you're trying to clear down. And this has brought you to watching this video to try and not only clear your debt and earn more money, but to change your life so you no longer are governed by debt and governed by a paycheck every single month. My response to that is, if you don't do it, you are greatly increasing your risk for failure in the future. Having job security isn't actually the security that you long for and should want. It's more of job shackles. You are tied, your life is tied to your job to earn your income, to pay down whatever commitments that you've got. And one of the biggest things that I disagree with is immediately leaving whatever it is you're doing, your job, your income stream, to jump and become a great entrepreneur or a property investor, whatever it is. I'm a big believer in a phased approach. And one of the best ways that you can do this is to try and understand how you can maximize your current job, your main income, for as little time as possible. Now, coming back to me for a second, I had a great job for a great company with great prospects, and I was earning pretty good money. But I also had the ability to deliver great performance, which is what my company was really only interested in. And the better the performance I could deliver, the more time I could claw back for myself. So actually, instead of having an income and a salary for my time, I had an income and salary for my results, which gave me more time. And I used that time, weekends, evenings, every spare second in between appointments, to try and achieve my goals, which was to become a property investor. And I could have stayed in that job until retirement, and many of my colleagues did. And the retirement package was fantastic. But the reality did kick into me that if I wanted more time with my children, I didn't want to become a father who was Monday to Friday staying away in hotels, putting them to bed via FaceTime, and then coming home to weekends to spend time with the children, see my wife, have fun with my friends, and try and squeeze my whole life into 2 days. And I actually saw this as a huge opportunity, that if I didn't start to leap ahead and do something that I was in control of, that generated more income for less time, I was actually risking not only my future and my happiness, but also my family's. And I was risking their future sustainability. I mean, there's nothing like having a great lifestyle and then all of a sudden you lose your job or you get made redundant and that income stream stops completely. And I wanted more for my children. I wanted more for my wife. I wanted more for me. And that involved in slowly stepping away and stepping in to what I thought I could hang my hat on to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was property investing. Now, had I have not risked the small job, which actually isn't a risk, let's say I did really well with property really quickly and I decided to leave that job and then property crashed, I can always go and get another job. If you're good at what you do, people will always pay for great value. And great value in great people is worth its weight in gold. When I look back in hindsight, there was no risk to how I was doing it. I wasn't going to leave abruptly. I wasn't going to jump in with 2 feet with property. I was going to phase it in. So I wasn't putting anything at risk and I was still delivering great results. And had I have not done that, then the risk for my whole family and my whole future would have been through relying on one company. People who are in a higher position than me, dictating how much I earned, how much time I spent, what job I did, if I enjoyed it. If those people got it wrong, it made me unhappy. If people didn't value me, I earned less money. And if they got their job really wrong and the company collapsed, I risked the thing that I'm hanging on to for security the most. And that's when I realized that this word security, this word great job, didn't really mean anything. It was a means to an end. And I also used my great job and good salary to help me get ahead in property. Now, there's nothing like having a good job with a good salary for a mortgage lender. That makes you really mortgageable. For me, there was no risk. And this video isn't about the risky deals that you do or the types of de-risk and property strategies you should take. I've got a video on that. I'll put a link in the comments below. This is about taking the first step. If you really want to create wealth, change your life, then focus on where you need to be and don't even take a consideration into what the risks are. Let's look at property for a second, because one of the most common fear factors was, I really want to get into property, But what happens if? And those ifs were, what happens when interest rates rises? What happens when the market collapses? What happens when mortgage lenders change their products? What happens when renters stop paying? What happens when a boiler breaks down? What happens? And do you know what? If you thought about it for a second, of all the what ifs that could happen with regards to property investing, you probably wouldn't even leave your own home for the fear that the second you walk out the door, the roof is going to cave in. So I'm a big believer in trying to understand not what the ifs are, but how you can resolve most problems. Now, if mortgage rates rise dramatically, that's okay, because I've got a stress test within my portfolio which enables my income to see interest rates up there at 5-6% and still make a healthy profit, not just cover the mortgage interest. If property prices collapse by 20-25%, which they have never done, that's okay. I've got about 50% equity in my portfolio and my home is completely mortgage free. So I have ways of extracting cash out should I need to. What happens if people stop paying rent? Well, what happens if you lose your job? It is part and parcel of being a property investor, and you have to plan for those things, but you can de-risk that. Be in charge of your own tenants, give good properties, attract good tenants, charge the right rents. All of these fear factors and examples of what the risks are. I might lose my home, I might lose everything. Well, if you position your investing correctly, then you won't do that. And I have always been a big believer that if the worst case ever happened to me and I went bankrupt tomorrow, then everything else that I own would be okay because I've structured it in the right way. Even the majority of my portfolio would be okay because I have the right corporate structure. And the reality is, for a property to be repossessed, you've got to do so many fundamental things wrong that it is just untangible that you could ever get to that point. Now, I have mentioned on some previous videos, there are rogue investors and developers out there who make it part of their strategy in having receivers appointed and properties taken away and then they rebid on them. That's not what I'm talking about. I have no interest in even getting into that world. This is about good quality, homemade, clean, good old-fashioned investing and making money through renting and making money through selling. And the reality is, you may kiss some frogs, you may get some things wrong, and you may lose some money. But if you just take it in your stride and don't let it faze you, then there is actually very little to risk in terms of investing in property. And when you look at it in terms of businesses, like the property corporate structure that I mentioned, structure your corporate entity for your new business in the right way so it de-risks your assets, your home, anything that you are fearful of losing. Try and remove it from the liability of what you're doing. That's not because you're going to do anything wrong. That's not because you're gearing up to fail. It's just clever and smart ways of structuring things. And then I suppose to finish off, if you're fearful that you are not going to be able to find investors, you're fearful that you're not going to be able to find clients or sell your product or sell your service, the reality is you aren't always going to please everyone, and you are going to get some things wrong sometimes, and you are definitely going to have people who are never going to be happy, no matter how much you try. All I can say is if you stick to your guns and you continue to follow the example, you want to do a good job, you want to deliver a great service, and you want to make things profitable for everyone and give a good product or a good service, then you can't really go wrong, because there is always going to be a need for good people and good businesses. So look, I hope you found that useful. I hope that made things a little bit easier when you're looking at the risk versus reward. For me, property has completely transformed my life. So I hope that does help anyone who is just on the fence, not quite sure what to do. Take that leap of faith. Consideration of taking the jump is always worse than the landing. I promise you that. And if you need any help, any advice, or you just want someone else to listen to what it is you're going to do, feel free to ping me a message on Instagram. But look, that's it from me. Hope you found the content rich. I'll catch you all on the next video.